I live in a quiet suburban area, but there are a lot of more densely populated towns within driving distance of me. A few months ago, I picked up a night shift security job at a warehouse a few towns over. It was situated in this industrial space that stretched on for miles. The building itself was isolated with rows and rows of tall metal shelves and a couple of big loading docks. The work was easy, routine checks, basic security, making sure everything stayed locked up. It was quiet, usually too quiet, but I didn't mind. I liked the solitude, and most nights I could finish my shift without much happening. It was a Thursday night and it was pouring out. I was checking my phone every so often for updates on the storm, as I wasn't too keen on having to drive home in those conditions. Luckily, there wasn't much for me to do that night, so I at least had that going for me. The power in the warehouse flickered a few times, but held steady, so I wasn't too worried. But about an hour in, the power finally gave out, plunging the whole warehouse into pitch black darkness. I was pissed. I was the only employee there that night, so the responsibility for restoring the power was mine. I had obviously been prepped for a situation like this, but I never thought I'd ever have to actually deal with it. I stepped out of my little security room to begin the process. They had instructed me to unplug some of the massive machines before checking the breakers, so that's what I went to do. My flashlight was the only source of light in the whole place. It was honestly creepy as hell. The silence felt thicker in the dark, and every creak of the building seemed louder without the hum of the lights. My footsteps echoed like 100 times louder too, which was definitely an odd feeling. As I was patrolling one of the aisles, I heard a loud, metallic clattering echoing from somewhere deeper in the warehouse. It startled me, but I brushed it off as the storm rattling the roof or the metal shutters. Still, I decided to check it out, aisle by aisle. When I rounded one corner, I froze. A faint beam of light was moving along the shelves up ahead. It looked just like my own flashlight. It clicked off as quickly as I had seen it, but I had definitely seen it. No one should have been there until the morning, though. I felt my heart start to race. Why the hell would someone else be in here? I debated calling out, but ultimately decided against it. When I reached the spot where I'd seen the light, it was gone. The aisle was empty, just rows of crates and shelves stacked high with inventory. I started freaking out, knowing I wasn't going crazy. I knew what I saw. I had a job to do, though. I debated calling the police, but wasn't sure if what I had seen would be enough. I guessed there was a slight chance I could have imagined it. In hindsight, had the company not equipped me with a taser, I probably would have just called the police right there. As I continued my patrol, a strange smell hit me. A musty, metallic odor, like rusted metal or stagnant water. The smell was coming from one of the loading bays, a darker part of the warehouse where crates were stacked up floor to ceiling. I followed the smell with my flashlight, and that's when I noticed something odd. My beam reflected off the polished concrete floor, revealing 2 sets of wet footprints leading into one of the storage aisles. In that moment, I wanted to run in the opposite direction and call the police, but I couldn't just yet. If anyone was poking around, it was on me. That was literally my job. Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to follow the trail. I kept my flashlight low, not wanting to make it obvious where I was. As I got closer, I started hearing faint whispers, just barely audible, like 2 people having a conversation a few aisles away. I couldn't make out the words, but something about the tone sounded tense, almost urgent. I clicked off my flashlight and held my breath, trying not to make any noise. I gripped my taser and crept closer to the whispering. As I turned the corner, I raised my flashlight to confront whoever was there, but there was honest to God no one in front of me. The whispering had also stopped, which was pure insanity. They had literally been right in front of me. How the hell had they disappeared so quickly? The whole situation had me rattled. I decided that I wasn't getting paid enough for this, so I decided to just make a beeline for the circuit room and get the power on without worrying about my other tasks. I made it there and started fumbling around with the breakers in the dark. As I was doing that, I heard something scrape across the floor nearby. I swung my flashlight around and spotted the edge of a metal tool lying just a few feet away. A crowbar. It hadn't been there before. This was serious now. Whoever was in there with me had potentially malicious intentions. I yelled out that I was armed, which was kind of a half-bluff considering the taser. I needed to get out of there as fast as possible. My nerves were shot at that point, but I knew my life was more valuable than whatever consequences I'd face for leaving. As I was heading for the door, a loud, metallic crash echoed from the far end of the building, followed by the unmistakable sound of rushing footsteps. I felt a surge of adrenaline and started running toward the noise. I turned the corner, and there they were. Standing in the middle of the aisle were two figures dressed all in black. One of them was holding a crowbar identical to the one I had just walked past. They looked at me for a split second, and then, without warning, started sprinting directly towards me. I didn't think, I just turned and ran. All the confidence I had just mustered up was gone. I could hear their footsteps pounding behind me, but I didn't dare look back. I weaved through the aisles, praying that I'd be able to navigate this place better than they could. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps faded. I paused, catching my breath, and realized they weren't chasing me anymore. Eventually, I made my way toward the exit door and stepped outside. I immediately called the police and begged them to come as quickly as possible. They actually arrived pretty quickly, which I was thankful for. Of course, those two strangers were long gone by then, but the officers were really helpful, and even helped me get my power back up. My boss was not as sympathetic, though. He gave me shit for running, and I almost lost my job over the whole incident. I still can't get over how strange the whole encounter was. Like, it was clear that those people were messing with me, but they still chased me with a weapon. The worst part is I still work nights in that warehouse, although my boss did start putting at least 2 people on the shift every night. I still don't know what to make of the whole thing. I'm just glad those guys didn't catch up to me.